Okay, good morning or afternoon, depending on where you are. Today is Sunday, July 17th, 2022. Let's set our intentions, make aspirations by saying the four immeasurables prayer. May all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all beings not be separated from happiness that is never known suffering. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment, anger, and aversion. So we're going to start with a shorter meditation session today. And then Victoria is going to talk further about meditation. And after her talk, we're going to do another meditation session. That's the way it'll work today. And then we'll do Q&A. So let's get right to it. Actually, why don't you take us through the 9 purifying breaths, and then we'll do the meditation. We'll go right from the 9 breaths to the meditation, and you can explain it a little bit as we do this. And then if you're new, I should always explain this. We're not doing a full review, but if you're new to this and you don't know the basic technique, if you go to YouTube, Meditation with Michael Imperioli, YouTube, the first 2 classes of 2022, back in January, whatever the first 2 days are, has a very detailed review of the basic technique that we do here. Okay, but I mean, you could still, sit through this one, just get comfortable and, breathe and be calm. Okay.
So the important thing about the 9 breath purification is visualizing our body as empty with 3 channels. Middle blue channel, the channel of our wisdom channel, the avaduti, where we will be exhaling our ignorance, and we have the white and the red channel. The red channel, the mother, the sun channel is associated with desire. We will be exhaling desire when we're exhaling through that channel. We will be clearing that channel of desire and attachment. The white channel, the father channel, bodhicitta channel, the moon channel, is associated with anger and all the various shades of anger, such as impatience, shortness, irritation. When we're exhaling through the white channel, we will be visualizing that we are clearing that channel of all the obstructive energies of those emotions, of those negativities. So that's what's important to keep in mind. We're going to maintain the Vajra fist, where we press the thumb at the base of the ring finger through all 9 breaths. And on the last, so first we will do the right channel, the left channel, and the central channel. When we're doing the last breath of the central channel through both of the nostrils, we will visualize bringing the air through the 2 side channels into the middle channel. And on the last exhale, we will be bringing the breath up through our Brahma aperture, through our crown, and we will be exhaling the breath through the crown, consciousness merging with space on the last of the 3rd set. So. On the last breath, consciousness merging with space through our crown aperture, we go right into meditation. We are observing our mind. We are observing events, mental events, arisings, dissolving into the sky of awareness.
We can focus on the breath and the place where the nose, nostrils, and upper lip meet, where the air goes in and out. We're breathing through our nose. Place our attention there. Or for those of you who have been at it a while, place your attention on what your mind is doing, what's arising in your mind. Mind looking at mind. Whatever thoughts arise in that space, we become aware of the fact that there's a thought. We leave it where it is. We don't push it away. We don't follow it. We watch it dissolve back into the sky-like nature of mind from which it arose. That's it. And then we can just rest in that sky-like nature of mind, which is limitless, spacious, calm, clear, aware. Always there, has always been, will always be. The thoughts that arise and dissolve within that space, expansive mind, do not touch the mind, stain the mind, alter the mind in any way. Mind looking at mind. What is the mind that looks at mind? What is the mind that becomes aware of the thought that has arisen in the sky-like nature of mind? Okay. I think it's worth noting that in Tibetan, one of the words for meditation is gom, G-O-M, which means really to familiarize. So meditation can be thought of as familiarizing yourself with your mind, which in many ways we're really not familiar with it. That's why we have to meditate. We're familiar with our thoughts, with our, attachments and aversions and desires and, repulsions and hopes and fears and things like that. But the real nature of mind, we're really not familiar with how the mind works and what's really there. Obviously, meditation is what drew you here. And strangely enough, I think a lot of people, when they get into the Dharma, they or are interested in spirituality, kind of want to skip the step of meditation and just do the reading or the teachings and the concept, stay in concept about what, about virtue and about, the defects and things like that, faults and karma, and like to hear about those things. But there's really no spiritual practice without meditation. There's no, the masters all, and especially Tibetan Buddhism, which is what we practice, they all say that it's absolutely essential to, to be on a spiritual path, to progress on a spiritual path and to walk a spiritual path. Meditation, absolutely essential. This familiarization with the mind. And Victoria's going to elaborate a bit more on meditation today.
I mean, the Buddhist path, as Michael just mentioned just now, is a threefold path, going from ignorance, going to clarity, hearing, pondering, and meditation. Hearing is when we go from the state of not knowing anything and we enter first grade, we hear about it. We go to teachings, we pick up a book. Pondering is when we start to engage the mind now from our side, because Buddhism is all about our own engagement. Therefore, Buddha is not some religious, leader of the cult. Buddha is someone who has gone to that place like an astronaut. He's a traveler. He's gone to that place and he brought us the map so we can use that map to go there ourselves. Meditation is where, so we're studying the map is the pondering. We're studying what the Buddha has done, what he has accomplished. That's pondering. And meditation is when we go there ourselves. It is an irreducible step because we can learn, as much information and we can even ponder on the second step. of the Buddhist path. But if we don't actually go there ourselves, everything we can say and everything we can speculate is nothing but speculation, and a lot of times will lead to arrogance as opposed to reducing. Because really, you know, the process of meditation and the final step of getting to know the nature of the mind is removing the veils of conceptual thinking, is removing clouds from the sky, is being able to see into the sky directly, traverse that space. And so meditation is the final step, and actually the most important step. You can think of the other two, the hearing and pondering, as a preparatory steps. It's like being in the astronaut school and then undertaking the journey. And Robert Thurman, many years ago, when he was translating profound Dharma text, he said that he called the spiritual practitioners psychonauts as opposed to astronauts. And I thought it was a very good term, because as opposed to going out into space and exploring out there and looking at stuff out there, we are looking internally and we're exploring the interior space of reality, because everything we know is our awareness. Everything, whenever we have experience, it is because there is this space of awareness that is capable of perceiving things. When there's no awareness, there is no experience, and we don't even have to discuss anything. You know, that's just speculative stuff. So it is about learning about the space of awareness, the nature of awareness. That's what meditation is for. Without undertaking the step of going there, we can't really discuss voyages of any kind. We can only have secondhand accounts and speculation. Anyway, so in the classical Tibetan Buddhist tradition, and this is what we follow, there are two main steps into which meditation, it's not that they're divided, you know, they're not separate, but we learn them as two separate things so that we can merge them into the one experience of meditation. And one is called Vipassana, which is what we've been talking about for the last 2 years. Vipassana is calm abiding meditation. It's also called one-pointed meditation. That means that we can stabilize our mind and engage it in viewing one object. It could be a regular object. We can meditate on the pebble or the breath. That is called the impure object, or we can stabilize our view and our meditation, our focus on pure object. That is usually image of the Buddha. You know, it could be also a mantra, but something that relates to an object that is no longer just this out there thing, where we trust our perception of something to be there. This is where we really kind of start to cross more to the inner space, and we're looking at the pure object. But the important thing of the one-pointed meditation is not so much the object. It is that we can stabilize our mind and experience the stability. And that is what shamatha really is. The second aspect is called vipassana, and that is a Sanskrit word. Like shamatha is calm abiding, vipassana is translated as analytical meditation. What does it analyze? Vipassana is the meditation where the mind starts to turn away from the delusion of trusting in outer things out there, or things like me, myself, my identification with my body, my identification with the construct of the ego. I am this person, I am the boss, I am the father, I am a teacher, I am a this and that, I am a, you know, this conglomerate, this, you know. This is when we take our mind and we really analyze the nature of these conglomerates, the nature of these built-up structures, the nature of these compounds. And, you know, there is a formal analytical meditation in Tibetan Buddhism where we start to analyze ourselves. Am I my hand? Am I my leg? Am I my brain? Am I my hair? And through all this, we're looking for the self. Well, at the end of that formal meditation, we find nothing. There is no I in any part of my body. There is no I in my perceptions. There's no I in my thoughts. You know, the I kind of always accompanies it, but at the end of this analytical meditation, we find there is no I, and it is exactly that not finding that is very, very important. It is the not finding is what we want to experience and carry away with us. What we do find is, and it's in 3 steps kind of, and we don't have to get into a lot of detail today. The 3 steps being, first we find egolessness, that the ego doesn't exist. We just find like the open sky of awareness. We find egolessness. We find, second stage would be, we find emptiness. Find emptiness of phenomena and the self. Because last week we talked about the 7 minds, and we talked about 5 perceptual minds, the 6, the mental mind, the mind that can conceptualize all of our perceptual experience, organize it. 7th, the afflictive mind, where we superimpose our feelings, our emotions onto objects out there, like this is not just a man, but this is my friend, a lover, or an enemy. I hate him or I love him. I need to see him all the time. That kind of stuff with consciousness number 7. And the 8th consciousness, the repository consciousness, the very bare aspect of the mind that can simply perceive. But if that mind is turned outward, entertaining and chasing things, it is what is called ignorance, and that mind turned onto itself, watching simply itself, abiding in its own space of awareness, looking at awareness. We call that wisdom, prajna. So in our analytical meditation, when objects arise, we'll look at their empty nature. We look at the selfless nature, and then we again go into the shamatha. When we find this not finding anything, when we disassemble it all, and we come back and we see this empty nature, we bring back our shamatha aspect, and we maintain that, we experience that, we habituate it, we abide in that space. That's what the word gom means. It means habituation, becoming first familiar with it, and then habituating, staying in that place of openness where the mental events and the risings come and go. We watch them. But there are things that we need to do within that space of meditation, and I wrote a little list, is don't judge. If we judge, that means we are in this dualistic mind out there engaged in stuff. We're not even aware that, you know, we're engaging like mind number 7, 7, 6, and the 5 perceptual consciousnesses. Don't grasp. Don't grasp at stuff out there. Don't grasp at self as the body. Let all that stuff go. Let it arise, but don't grasp. Don't judge. Don't grasp. Don't identify. Don't say, this is me and this is that. If it arises, relax it. Watch it in the space of your awareness, softly. And don't search. When you sit down to meditate, don't create a goal and look for stuff out there, because you will do nothing but project. If you get to the space where the space of your awareness is clear and reveals itself to you, it'll do so by itself. It'll arise so by itself. If you're looking for stuff, you will simply meet, you know, your concepts out there. You will meet your anticipation out there. You will meet your impatience and aggressiveness out there. Just relax. Just watch. Just be. And for that, we, we watch our body, speech, and mind. Our body is stable and open. Our speech is silent, and we are ready to hear anything that comes within that silence. And our mind is just open. It's just like, you know, a vast sky. And when clouds come, we let them dissolve. With our Vipassana, we may ask a brief question: where do they come from? Where do they go to? What are they? We get to this kind of a feeling of emptiness, the perception of emptiness, and we go right back into calm abiding. The nature of mind is not a construct like an eye. When we're examining it, we are getting just to this open ground, which is our mind, our nature of mind. It is often said that our awareness is space-like. What is meant by that, the underlying meaning of that space-like, space cannot be created or destroyed, the same as our awareness. Our awareness is always there in our womb and, at the moment of death and beyond it. It's not mental events. It's not arisings. Awareness is always aware of the arisings. That's how we know that we know things. That's how we know phenomena. That's how we have self-awareness of our body or our breath or whatever else. But that in itself, it doesn't come and go, just like space. It is always said that there are two things that we can think of as this uncreated, not arising and not ceasing aspect, and that is our awareness and space. And we're not talking about physical space. We're talking about the space of awareness. And they're mixed. They're not two separate things. When thoughts arise, when you see arisings, mental events happening, purify it with the view. Remind yourself gently. Remind yourself gently. Don't get tight and rigid and go off into thinking and objectifying and judging and grasping and identifying and searching. Purify gently. Remind yourself, appearances are mind, and mind is emptiness. Appearances are mind, and mind is emptiness. This is really the core of the view. We are not creating calm abiding and analytical meditation. It is the nature of our mind. The calmness is when there are no winds, karmic winds blowing inside our mind, when we're not grasping, judging, identifying, searching. We have calmness. That is calm abiding. Our mind is capable of this tremendous stability. Our awareness is always there. That's what it means, stability. And our awareness is always clear. It means that our awareness has an innate quality of it being able to be aware of whatever arises. Those things are not created. What we're doing through our training is to really get back to experience of those things. Stability, one-pointedness, and clarity, the luminous aspect, with the light bulb of the mind, being able to be aware of whatever arises. Subtle when it's our breath, or gross when we think we're, when big events arise in our mind. It is the nature of a mind that is fundamentally stable, fundamentally clear, or often it's called clarity aspect. The awareness aspect is called luminous. It is like a light bulb. That is the discriminating aspect of it. These aspects do not arise and they do not cease. It is simply what our mind, nature of our mind is. We refer to these two things with these two different names, but remember, they're the original nature. They are the nature of our mind. And in that space, we're not grasping, we're not looking, we're not searching, we're not anticipating, and we're also not being aggressive. We're not being impatient. We're just sitting We're watching the clouds to the point of where we lose interest with the clouds, the mental arisings, you know. And if the clouds do come about, you know, we've discussed, you know, the 8 minds. Just remind yourself very, very gently, all those things, all those appearances are mind, and mind is emptiness. And so with that in mind, let's meditate. Uh, Stabilize your mind on the breath. Go beyond that. You can even think of, you know, the sound of your breath. Where is it? What is it? Is it the stuff that your nostrils are producing? Is it your ears? Is it the air? You know, and then just let it all go. And let consciousness look at itself. You know, whenever you feel that you're going off into thinking, you know, objectifying, judging, etc., conceptualizing, just look at who's thinking, who is the thinker, you know, where are these thoughts going, where are they coming from, and where are they dissolving into, and very, very gently allow this empty aspect of mind and luminosity just look at itself, and then go back into calm abiding and stay with that.
We'll do another short session, and if you have questions, use the Q&A function.
Feel the vast scale of your mind, of your awareness, and allow mental events to just arise and drop. Don't attach to them, don't examine them, just observe and let them dissipate. If your mind is very excited, cast your gaze softly downward. If your mind is sinking and you feel blankness, cast your eyes slightly upward.
Okay, great.
And I just wanted to add that don't ever be harsh and judgmental. When you're seeing different mental events arise, you're watching them like a movie. Uh, Ultimately, you're not even thinking whose movie theater this is, who is running the projector, what is the projector. You're kind of saying who's writing this movie, you know. That's Vipassana, analytical meditation, but you're doing all that very, very softly because you want to get past all the cloud events. And, you know, when the airplane rises above the clouds and right into the empty sky.
If a goal comes up while meditating, do you have any techniques to eliminate, remove it, and get back to meditation?
You soften the energy with which the mind is staring in that corner. You know, it's like moving your eyes from left to right. But you have to do it gently. You know, you all you want to see, the way that you release it is you watch the energy with which it's attached to something. Don't think about the something, the object of the thought. Feel the energy of attachment and just kind of soften it, let it go. You drop it.
How do you go about disconnecting the ego or the natural desire to be seen, to be heard, to be felt, even to be special? Well, first you have to become aware that that's happening.
And
Right?
you are, obviously.
Yeah. First you have to become aware that you have an ego and that it's happening and that you have a desire to be seen or to be felt or to be special. And then it's good to examine first how that operates in the tiniest of ways, not just the big ways of like you desire to be, you know, to be the boss of your job or rise up the corporate ladder or whatever it is, you know, win, you know, in business or things like that. But even in very subtle ways, you know, it could be like when you go to a restaurant, if you feel like the waiter's ignoring you or something like that, and it's like you take it obviously very personally, not realizing, well, maybe they're really busy or there's a problem in you know, your ego and your kind of feelings come first. Well, awareness is a good first step. And then what Victoria was talking about and realizing that what, you know, what the self is, the illusion of self, you know, these the labeling of self, you know, we examining the different parts of us and trying to find where the self is. Where is the I? What exactly is the I? You know, it's a construct of different ways we perceive rather than anything inherently real per se, you know. Look at the fact of the impermanence, the fact that you know, in this incarnation, in this body will perish, you know, at sometimes later, sometimes sooner, and it's very unpredictable and unknown when that will happen. Look at what we discussed about emptiness, the view non-duality and ultimate truth and those things. These teachings, you know, these are very these take a long time to study, ponder, meditate on. But all these things are about really discovering that a lot of how we operate has come out of clinging to this idea of separateness, self and other, our image of ourselves, our view of ourselves, things that we've kind of reified and solidified over time that are not necessarily true, that are perceptions, fixations, rather than very solid, deep truths. You want to elaborate?
Just emphasize exactly what you just said. Garchen Rinpoche, our teacher, always says the kind of the ultimate, baseless lie. That's why we call it a delusion or an illusion, is that self and other is separate. So if we can really for a moment stop and think that we are not separate, what I do, it's like a drop in the ocean, but it changes the whole ocean. And how I will react or respond to that later when I have impatience, as opposed to when I do have patience, will be tremendously different. It's ultimately, every negativity is something that we will have to reap. It's like putting a seed into the soil. So always remembering that. Whatever I do, whatever I say, even whatever I think, but thoughts may arise. Hopefully, we can catch the horse before the gate is open, before we open our mouth, and before we act out physically, bodily. If we can change and shift right at that time, we don't have to deal with very horrendous, karmic repercussions. And we get used to more and more softening these very strong desires and impulses that drive us. We do have an ability to change at the gate. We can, by becoming aware of these impulses, by becoming aware of the flavor of these impulses, our energies, we can change and redirect them. We can soften them. We can make them more aware, more present.
I feel like my anxiety and panic disorders are getting in the way of my ability to have true spaciousness of mind. In meditation, I can get myself in that state, but I find it hard to have that carry on into day-to-day life. I've made huge strides in therapy, still in a difficult place. I mean, I can't really speak to anxiety and panic disorders. I mean, I don't have that kind of, education, training, and things to speak to those things in any kind of, depth or detail. So, I mean, if you're in therapy and you're working with a professional, whatever that course has, has helped, continue on. I mean, this is not, if you say in meditation you're getting yourself in a state of spaciousness of mind, well, that means that's really good. Finding it hard to have carry that on into day-to-day life, that's pretty much everybody, Sure, sitting on a cushion, calming yourself, getting into some spaciousness, working with thoughts when everything's quiet like this is very good, but step outside and, you're dealing with other people, you're dealing with traffic, you're dealing with temp weather, you're dealing with all kinds of distractions and interactions and things like that. And that's natural that it's difficult. I think outside of people with anxiety and panic disorders, it's difficult for all of us. I don't know what else to say rather than just maybe, deepen your practice, maybe study more, maybe take refuge, or maybe find a teacher. I mean, whatever, if you feel like this path is bringing you something and has led to, as you say, making progress and strides, just, deepen your commitment to it. I don't know what else to say.
I would only add to it, I feel very often we separate our meditation time, the formal meditation time, from everything else. It's as if almost we get off the cushion and we take on a different persona, a habitual persona. On the cushion, we could be soft, we could be kind, we could be loving. As soon as that time is over, we kind of close the door on that part of ourselves and we take on the, the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde phenomenon. We go right into the other persona. It's at when you're making the dedication at the end of your meditation session, which is something we should all and always practice, make an aspiration. When I get up, I want to be that person that I just experienced in my meditation time. We're only meditating so that when we get up, we can continue that more illuminated, kinder, more spacious person. Otherwise, meditation has really no, I mean, it's not like a sleeping pill before sleep. So make it, we should all make an aspiration that whatever we experience in our meditation, in that spaciousness, that we bring that love, we bring that patience with us to everything else in the world.
And this follows to the next question. I'm new here on a day like today where you spent your morning meditating. What next? How will you transition into the rest of your day and bring those lessons with you? Exactly by cultivating, awareness, looking at your mind, seeing what your mind is doing. So you leave the cushion, you go outside and you walk to the store and you try to bring that level of awareness to, actually, this ties into all the questions today. You're actually looking at your mind to figure out where your mind is at. Somebody walks by, doesn't get out of your way quick enough on the sidewalk or something. Immediately self and other. This person's an idiot. They should know to move out of the way. They're not paying attention. How dare they? I got to get to the, and then if you can, by familiarizing yourself with your mind, you can use these kind of situations as reminders to go to mindfulness, to go to awareness, where you can say, okay, it's all right. This person's doing their thing. I can just walk around them. I can wait 2 seconds and go on my way. Rather get into the story of ego, self, and other. This person's wronging me. Have some awareness where you can spend so much less mental, physical energy on it. It's over and continue on into some kind of equanimity and spaciousness. I think it's really the key here, and feeds back into the last question. It's difficult. I mean, we're rewiring ourselves in some way. It's not something just because we do. We spend 10 minutes on Sunday morning meditating that we're gonna all of a sudden be new, reborn people. But step by step, consistency and perseverance, and just realizing that you want to live in the truth. I think that's really important.
And on the practical side, how do we do that? We, throughout the day, we bring our mind back for one moment. Look at anything. Stabilize your mind for 1 second with Vipassana, with one pointed meditation. For 1 second, just look inward and you say to yourself, what is the state of my mind? That is the last verse of the 37 Bodhisattva practices, that no matter what I do, whatever I engage in, any time, any moment of my existence, we try to even do it in sleep. We bring our awareness back to our awareness and we ask ourselves, what is the state of my mind? We're not looking out there, this guy's this, and we're not dealing with labels. We are watching the space of our awareness. We are always looking at the energy which guides us. Is the energy of my awareness all anger? Is it all selfishness? Is it all and anger is selfishness, because at the base of anger or impatience or fear or something else is this grasping to the self. So whenever we have the poisons, whenever we have the afflictive emotions, at the base of them is always the attachment to the self. That's why we have the Vipassana meditation, that portion where we ask ourselves, what is the self? What am I so, who am I fighting for so hard over here, And we're trying to gain basic intelligence back into our life, as Michael said, take a moment, take a breath, go around the person. see if you can calm them, because the moment we display some kind of an aggressive behavior will amplify immediately. And that's what interconnectedness and karma cause and effect is. The minute we display aggressiveness, like we fire up, that fire will become double the size or triple the size. So, it's always going, through the day, constantly, we're going always back and self-reflecting. We're going into our interior space, and we're always asking, what is the state of my mind? And that's how we bring meditation into everything. We really should not spend any time without it.
And it's interesting that we started off talking about ego, because that's really what is getting in the way. That's really where our awareness fails us, right? Our awareness goes to ego, goes into winning and losing, this person, judging, fighting, one-upmanship, all those things. One good exercise is in situations in life, right, when you're interacting, and try to bring the practice of patience into your daily life more, and try to, every interaction you have with another person, be it on the phone, online, in person, on the street, strangers, friends, familiars, neighbors, try to bring the practice of patience to it, because this is really good. Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche once said, rather than looking at patience as this forbearance, like you're kind of, you're going to put up with this person being in your way for a second, and like, bear this burden of it until it's done, and not engage in anger with it, not engage in, trying to control it. Or he talks about patience being an obligation rather than this, this sacrifice, which is a really good way to think about it. As practitioners, patience is an obligation, which is another way to start looking at your practice, rather than what it's doing for you, what the practice is doing for you, how the practice is making your life better. You really consider yourself a practitioner, you have to start also looking at it as an obligation to how it's going to benefit others. It's a big, big, important point. While looking at the new images from the Webb Space Telescope, I am awed by the vastness of our universe. Sometimes, when I am able to stabilize my mind in meditation, I get a glimpse of an inner space that also feels vast. Am I on the right track? Yeah, I mean, if you think about it in terms of non-duality, there's no difference between you and what you're seeing out in space.
But it's also about not attaching, have these things arise and have them dissolve without attachment and without projection. Yes, the mind is vast like space. I mean, that's what the masters always say.
Is there a beginner book you can recommend? The Dalai Lama's books are really good for beginners. The Art of Happiness is one in particular. Tips on sitting still and not moving or fidgeting while meditating. Obviously, first you become aware of what, if you are moving or fidgeting. The other thing is maybe not worry so much if you're moving or fidgeting. Yes. You don't have to sit like rock, like a stone, and force yourself to not move or fidget. It's okay. I think if you find yourself moving or fidgeting, maybe instead of thinking about the moving and fidgeting, just use that as a reminder to look at your mind.
And have patience with yourself, have kindness with yourself, give yourself permission, and know your practice will grow. The more but don't create a tightness, because you will not like meditation. Create a spaciousness and an acceptance. Allow yourself to be fidgety, knowing that you will attain. There is a forward movement. I mean, it is a gradual path. It doesn't happen immediately that one can just sit with great stability and great openness and in great silence and space. Be patient with yourself. Give yourself the permission. And don't judge yourself.
Is focusing on a symbol or a mantra the same as having a thought or cloud that needs to be pushed away? Well, we don't push the thoughts or clouds away. We don't follow them. By follow them, I mean get into the story. A thought arises. Yesterday, somebody bumped into me on the street. You know what? If I see that person again, I know what corner I saw that guy. If I see him again, I'm going to tell him off. I'm going to get, that's following the thought, right? So the thought arises of what happened yesterday. Following the thought is like, what I'm going to do. What can I do next? Or how, that's following the thought. Pushing the thought away is not what we're doing either, which is thinking about yesterday. I can't think about yesterday. Let me get rid of that. It's not about that. It's just becoming aware that you're having the thought. And then we use the cloud to imagine that thought, that cloud dissipating back. So rather than push it away or follow it, we kind of just almost like lightly touching it with our awareness, breathing within it, almost aerating it. So it just like, loses its pull, loses its power, and just fades back into itself. Focusing on a mantra, I mean, we haven't really spoke about mantra in class. I mean, mantras are spoken. So you're not really focusing on this, you're speaking it. And a symbol, when you were talking about, what was it, the higher supports?
Pure, when we use imagery that is called pure imagery, such as looking at at a statue of a Buddha or a tank and things like that. The reason why they're called pure supports is because we remember what are the qualities for which we are recognized in those by looking at those supports. And mantra is also it's a meditative technique. The word mantra itself means man is mind and tra is to hold. It's a technique which allows us for our mind not to dissipate and go off into narratives. So mantra is used, but mantra is used in specific practice contexts. Mantra can be used as a support to stay in one pointedness. Absolutely.
I'm having trouble expressing my dedication to meditation as well as my interest in Buddhism to my family or friends. Is this some personal anxiety I have to deal with, or is this a similar feeling you had? I think what's good with for that is rather than, you may not want to tell people. Sometimes the best way is to you do your practice and maybe they're going to start to notice some kind of change in you. Or maybe not, and you'll just, your interactions will now be different because of what you're practicing. Buddhism is very exotic to a lot of people and very, it's not familiar to a lot of people, and especially if people have, they're religious, or they grew up with a religion and it's part of your cultural heritage as well. It can be a little bit of a threat to family members or friends because it's so different, or if they're unfamiliar. So rather than kind of forcing the issue, you may not want to, I think you have to really decide that. If you're having trouble expressing it, maybe it's not the right time yet.
At the same time, I would also say that you don't need approval. The important thing is not to watch for projected responses. You have to ask yourself, am I expecting them to say something, make a big comment? You have to make sure that that space is free. And therefore, you don't really need anyone's approval, and you don't need specific responses. You just continue your practice, and the practice becomes visible in our actions, in our body, speech, and mind. And there will be acknowledgement when there is a real change in your body, speech, and mind, in your activity. That change will be perceived, and that's that's all we really need. We don't need anything beyond that.
How can we reconcile ahimsa? Ahimsa is nonviolence, right? Ahimsa with non-judgment. I'm thinking about food choices and the suffering we cause when supporting factory farming. Do we just not judge in meditation, but examine how to live ahimsa outside of it?
We have to watch our minds. It's, we don't engage in Buddhism to call others this and that and project, this judgment. The main thing that we work, pretty much the only thing we work on, and that's not without being interconnected and understanding that self and other don't exist. But we are watching the space of our own mind. Being vehement and creating, very rigid judgmental structures onto others is a form of violence. I mean, we've been vegetarians for many years, but if I go out or my friends or family visit and they eat meat, I don't want to create a terrible atmosphere and call them horrendous people because they're still involved, in what I consider to be a cause of suffering for animals. We have to get there at our own time. We have to get there gradually and naturally, not in any kind of an artificial way. We cannot impose our will onto others. As I said, it's important to watch the space of our mind.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean, if you want to be vegetarian, if you want to be an activist for animal rights, if you want to, invent something that, is a new form, like meat substitute or things, you know what I mean? That's your motivation, that's fine. Because other people can have their own justifications for eating meat, and not all Buddhists are vegetarian. Know that too. There's no
one size fit all.
Yeah, and I don't know if there's even teachings of the Buddha where he says it's better to eat meat or not eat meat, anything like that. It's and remember, Buddhism is not geared so much as a dogma for social structures. It's much more an individual path dealing with your own mind. For instance, there's certain, listen, when you walk, if you walk in the grass, you're killing probably a lot of insects, stepping on them because they live there and you can't see them and you don't know. That's killing living beings too. Is the choice never to go anywhere? You know what I mean? There's certain beings that have a karma to exist in that way, so
That's
obviously with vegetarianism you make a decision not to eat meat. You can make a decision to be an activist. You can make a decision to, do something to change things, but that's your path and your choice. So I think it's important not to, rather than judge others, what they should do or they shouldn't do, be aware of what you want to do and what you feel you should do.
And what Michael was saying, I wanted to just add that's what our teacher Garchen Rinpoche always says. It is, we've addressed the same kinds of things that at some point were important to us, and we were judgmental about them, obviously, but Rinpoche always said that even when we inhale, we kill bacteria and certain creatures, and it is their karma to be born in such a way, to be stepped on, not to be visible, to be swiped on our, under the tires of our car, under the wheels of the railroad, et cetera, et cetera. So the important thing is watching the space of our own mind. That's the path, is watching us, ourselves.
I mean, you can make aspirations if you're walking through the grass that any beings you may step on and kill, you wish for, you make prayers for, and you wish for a positive rebirth and things like that. You can say mantra, Chenra, a mantra of, the Om Mani Padme Hum, or what, you can't, if your awareness can get to that point, and you feel inspired to. I mean, if you're still eating meat, you can also make that, you can say, may this being who, is not alive anymore, that I'm taking in for nourishment, have some positive rebirth, try to make a connection to those things. If you're drinking milk, even where the milk came from. So, you can use that as practice as well.
And the lamas very often have ceremonies of buying fish from the fishermen and releasing them back into the water, buying animals that are about to go to slaughter and giving them to farmers who will not kill animals. All these are possible engagements to counter the effects, social effects of these killings.
Thanks, but this is the same person. Living a life of misery in factory farming and being abused in slaughterhouses is different from walking down the street. It sounds like you're equating walking down the street with intentional abuse and killing of animals. Now, I'm not equating it. I'm just saying even someone who's very mindful and is a vegetarian and a vegan still has to deal with the fact that animals are being killed, whether it's intentional or not. The reality is to that being that's getting killed doesn't really care whether it's your intention or not. The fact that they're getting killed is. I'm just saying that there's a lot more interdependence than we're talking about. The point of that's just elaborating on the question. The point really is, if you want to make an effort to, you want to run for office and pass a law against factory farming, that's possible too. The judgment really was the question, and it's, I think, judging other people for what they're doing is going to bring you into trouble. Is really just about
anger.
Yeah, rather than, if someone in your family eats meat, are you just, every time you see them eat a hamburger, you're going to just harangue them and tell them, maybe from their point of view, they feel like they're not doing anything wrong. Most people eat meat, probably. Most people in the world are probably not vegetarian. And I'm sure they have their reasons and their rationale for doing that. I mean, I agree. I think being abused in slaughterhouses is something I don't really want to participate in. But not everybody does, and that's, like I said, if it's something you feel you want to contribute to the change in the world, I think it can happen more out of compassionate action rather than just judgmentalism, being judgmental of others and just, forcing your, issues down their throat or something. You want to expand on that a little bit? I hope that's a little clearer. I understand. Should have just asked about ahimsa. I mean, ahimsa is obviously a great practice.
And it's a practice of nonviolence against all sentient beings. It's not just animals. There are 6 realms in Buddhism, and it is nonviolence against each and all, in various and every form, mentally, physically, and verbally, always through the 3 doors. So it is always watching that kind of space.
Okay. Let's dedicate
Thank you,
the
everyone.
merit created from today's session to the benefit of all
Nick.
beings. By this merit may all beings attain the omniscient state of enlightenment and conquer the enemies of faults and delusions. May they be liberated from this ocean of samsara and its pounding waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. Thank you, Nick Solidio, our producer, for making today possible. We will see you next week.